Looks like it's going to be a very nice day out there. It's going to be nice and warm, or at least warmer, and sun is shining. You know, we went to Austin to see my sister, and we were coming home. Now, when we went down, we ran into snow. It was snowing. And then when we were coming back, we could see evidence of snow. And in Abilene, there's a lot of snow, and then in Paducah, there's a lot of snow. All the way up to Childress, there's quite a bit of snow. And then we turned towards Headley and Memphis and McKnight, and there's nothing. Nothing. But that's all right. That's the way it goes. But we had a good trip. We want to welcome everyone here today. Whether you're on the computer or whether you're here live, we're glad that you're here and you're with us. We do have, of course, lots of people on our sick list. That's just kind of the way the world is right now. Thelma Shields is COVID, but hopefully is not having a horrible case of it, at least not yet. We're grateful for that. We're very grateful to the Lord for that. We want to remember the Skaggs family. JD's funeral was yesterday, and we want to remember all of them in our prayers. Dodie, which is Brandy Pate's daughter, is sick and probably has COVID. Just haven't got the test results back, but is very sick. I want to keep that family in mind. It seems like some people are doing better, that maybe Stevie Altman's doing a little better. I know Mark and Lori Lance are improving. They may still be sick, but they're improving. Janice and Gary are doing a little better. Last we heard.
Last I heard.
But not necessarily good, but a little better. Neil Hughes is maybe doing a little better. So we have some people doing a little better, and that's good.
What about Chris and Vicki Moore, do you know?
Chris and Vicki. The last I heard, and this has been a week or so, it's been at least past, was doing a little better. They were both home. They've both been in the hospital, and they're both home, but still ill, but doing a little better. But that's been, like I said, that's been at least a week since I heard anything on it. But that's what I heard. And I know I'm forgetting people, but we want to keep everybody in mind as we go through these times. Jimmy and Jean have gotten, were able to get in the line, wait a while, but were able to get the shot. So I think that is, the vaccination is coming around, and it may take a while, but it is becoming more and more available, and that's good. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to normal. And that normal's a big word. I don't know what's normal anymore. It may not ever get back to the way it was, but we hope it gets closer. We get closer. You know, that's one of the things, is that here at the end of the year, it's very common that we kind of look back and see what we see of what's gone on, and we try to look forward to see what we're going to do in the future. And I got to tell you, one of the benefits of being the judge is sometimes you get to delegate those little jobs. You get to say to somebody, you do the report on what's going on this year and what is our plan for next year. But I think sometimes that's a good idea. The Bible is full of admonitions to remember what's gone before, and also to look ahead, to be worthy of the calling which we've been called to walk in a manner worthy of the calling. So I think that's a very biblical thing to do, is to look back and remember what's gone before, but also to look forward, to see what is ahead, and to look forward with hope. If we look at 2020, I think that at the very least it's going to be an unusual year, no matter what we consider. When we consider, obviously, the pandemic that's gone on, the people that have gotten sick, the people that have died, that's going to be something that 2020 will always be remembered for. When we look at the violence that has gone on in our country, the increase in murders and shootings and those kind of things, we'll remember 2020 for that. The disruption and the discord that we have in our society, we will remember. And some of the things, and maybe some of the things that have gone on, will help us to look back and improve. And sometimes I think we just tend to look at the bad, but maybe there have been things that have happened that make us think and make us consider our positions and try to figure out how we can do them better, which is good. So sometimes we can look back and see the bad, but also maybe we can learn from it. And one of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to look in Jeremiah, which is another time when things were very disruptive and the people were in trouble. In Jeremiah, he's an interesting fellow. When he starts prophesying, everything in Judah is going well. The thing that's happened is the Assyrians, who were the bunch that came down and destroyed the northern kingdom and took all the Israelites off into captivity from the northern kingdom, well, they've run into trouble. Sennacherib, their king, they've gone home and his boys have assassinated. And then they get in a fight between them. And so Assyria is having a lot of infighting amongst themselves, which keeps them from looking at Judah. And then the Babylonians, who are one of the subjugated people of the Assyrians, they come in there and they overthrow the Assyrians in the city of Nineveh. And so Judah has a time here where they're kind of independent. They have, although Assyria never took the city of Jerusalem, they decimate the country. They kill lots of people. And they still have their thumb kind of on Judah. And you have to pay some tribute. And you have to do what we say. But then all of a sudden that's gone. And you have this time where the people are more independent. And when Jeremiah first starts prophesying, Judah is doing pretty good. They have independence, they have a little wealth, and everybody's feeling good. But when he starts prophesying, he doesn't have good things to say. He says, justice. There is no justice in our society. There is no time where we are doing what's right. We are following idols, and we're putting our trust in the wrong things. Now, when we see here in Jeremiah 17, thus says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his strength, whose heart turns away from the Lord. He is like a shrub in the desert, and shall not see any good come. He shall dwell in the parched places of the wilderness, in an uninhabited salt land. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. So one of the problems that the people of Judah had is, who are they trusting? Were they putting their trust in themselves and in their army and in their leaders, or were they putting their trust in the Lord? And when we see that, I think we can see that individually amongst ourselves. I know I can. Is, where am I putting my trust? Am I putting my trust in my own abilities, in my own strength, or am I putting my trust in the Lord? And I think sometimes as a people, as a community, as a country, where are we putting our trust? Are we putting our trust in our leaders? And maybe in the celebrities that we see that always tell us what to do, or the talking heads on the news stations that tell us how we should live? Or are we putting our trust in the Lord? And I think sometimes when we look at the time of Jeremiah, that's a good thing to remember. And by the time Jeremiah is through testifying, through prophesying, the country of Judah is no more. The city of Jerusalem has been destroyed. The temple has been destroyed. The people have been taken into exile, or maybe they have fled. A lot of them flee. But there is no more Judah. And the people are in exile. And it's not just so much that they've been taken away from their country, which would be horrible enough. Lots of people got killed. But they are also exiled from the presence of the Lord. The temple in Jerusalem was where they went to pray, where they went to worship, where they found God, where the priest would talk with God. And that's been destroyed. And so they have lost that sense of where they need to be. And one of the things we see is that God has put it in our hearts to seek God. This is in Ecclesiastes 3:11. This is one of the verses that Don likes to talk to me about, and I like it. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. He has put eternity into man's heart. Within us is something that seeks God. And the Bible tells us to seek God while he can be found. And I think we're all, in one way or another, seeking that relationship with God. And although we may not be exiled from our homes, sometimes I think we are spiritually in exile, and that we are trying to get back to that right relationship with God. And that's one of the things Christ did, is he came to reconcile us with God, so that we can have God, that we can see him, and we can feel him. But Jeremiah is basically a pretty dim book. There's not a lot of good parts of Jeremiah. It's a long, long book, one of the longest books in the Bible. But there are 4 chapters in Jeremiah, chapters 30, 31, 32, and 33, which are full of hope. And that's where we're going to go today. We're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 31, and we're going to begin in verse 7. And we're going to read just a portion of this chapter. But we see here that even with Jeremiah, even at a time of exile and troubles, there is still hope in the Lord. For thus says the Lord, sing aloud with gladness for Jacob, and raise shouts for the chief of the nations. Proclaim, give praise, and say, O Lord, save your people, the remnant of Israel. Behold, I will bring them from the north country, and gather them from the farthest parts of the earth. Among them the blind and the lame, the pregnant woman, and she who is in labor together. A great company they shall return here. With weeping they shall come, and with pleas for mercy I will lead them back. I will make them walk by brooks of water, in a straight path in which they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the words of the Lord, O nations, and declare it in the coastlands far away. Say, he who scattered Israel will gather him, and will keep him as a shepherd keeps his flock. For the Lord has ransomed Jacob, and has redeemed him from hands too strong for him. They shall come and sing aloud on the heights of Zion, and they shall be radiant over the goodness of the Lord, over the grain, the wine, and the oil, over the young of the flock and the herd. Their life shall be like a well-watered garden, and they shall languish no more. Then shall the young women rejoice in the dance, and the young men and the old shall be merry. I will turn their mourning into joy. I will comfort them, and give them gladness for sorrow. I will feast the soul of the priest with abundance, and all my people shall be satisfied with my goodness, declares the Lord. So even in this midst of all this trouble, there is a time of hope. And when we look to the Lord, when we look at this changing of the year, I think that that's one of the things that we have, if we look to the Lord, we can find hope. We can find a time when we can all get back together, when we don't have to wave at each other, but we can go up and you may owe me a hug when we're done. And we can be together again, and maybe we can have a fellowship meal, and we can get together the way we like, and get together with others. And I think that when we see this kind of promise, we see that hope. And when we look at this, who is coming? Who does he describe? And one of the things he describes is the blind and the lame, and the women who are pregnant, or the women who are with young children. And these are the vulnerable people. These are who he is asking to come. And this is something. Because when we look back in Leviticus, the lame are not the ones that are the favorite. This is in Leviticus 21. Speak to Aaron, saying, none of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer bread of this God. For no one who has a blemish shall draw near. A man blind or lame, or one who has a mutilated face or a limb too long, or a man who has an injured foot, or an injured hand, or a hunchback, or a dwarf, or a man with a defect in his sight, or an itching disease, or scabs, or crushed testicles. None of these people with problems should be a priest. It doesn't say that you have to kill them or anything like that. I don't mean that. But just that they aren't accepted as a priest to come into the presence of the Lord. But when we read this passage, when these people are coming back out of exile, it's everyone. Whether you're blind, whether you're lame, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're of the nations, everyone is welcome to come back. You know, I think that's there's a lesson in there. And when Jesus comes, he heals a lot of people. He heals the blind, he heals the lame, he heals the sick, he makes them better. And I think he has compassion on them because of whatever problem they may be having, with a withered hand or whether they can't walk. But and sometimes I think we get the impression that if people have some sort of problem, that makes them less. And when we read this, the blind and the lame don't get healed. They don't. They come and are welcome. Even those who may not be perfect are welcome. And when we think about that, I think it's good to remember that none of us are perfect. That none of us can stand up and say, we don't need any help. That we are so good that God needs us as opposed to we need God. None of us are in that light. All of us are blind and lame or blind in some way. We all have a problem. And when we don't think we do, that's when we can get in trouble. And also when we look at this, we see that it says that hands too strong for him. In verse 11, for the Lord has ransomed Jacob and has redeemed him from hands too strong for him. Is that sometimes when we look at life, when we're looking at our problems or we're looking at whatever it may be we are in the hands that are too strong for us. We don't always have to be the strongest. We don't always have to be the one that takes care of all problems. That sometimes we just may have to recognize that we're in hands of people who are too strong for us. Or maybe we're in the midst of a disease that's too strong for us. But God uses that. And here we have that 31:11. But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. And when we look at that verse out of 1 Corinthians, I think it's good to remember that Paul recognized his own weakness. That when we see God coming, he has an affinity for those that are in trouble, for those that may not be the strongest, for those that may need help, which again is all of us. And I think that is something that we always want to remember. Because when we're looking at, as we talked about a little bit earlier, who do we trust? And we think, I'm too weak, and I can't get this done. Maybe you're right. Maybe I can't get it done. Maybe I can't get it done without the Lord. Maybe I can't get this done unless I turn some of this over to the Lord. I know that many of you knew Mike Carl. I think he used to come up here some. I know he liked Wright. He was a big fan of Wright's. But Mike was a friend of mine. And Mike had lots of problems, as did I, as do I. And many times we would be talking about our problems, either mine or his or something like that. And it would usually come to the point, so we just got to turn that over to the Lord. As we're not going to get it cured on our own. We're not going to fix it by ourselves. That we need to put our trust in the Lord. And I think that's one of the things that we see here. But isn't this one? I love this verse. Their life shall be like a watered garden, and they shall languish no more. When we're talking about hope, and I think that's one of the things as we look forward to this coming year, if we put our hope in the Lord, we have a chance for this to be a good year. If we put our hope in what the Lord can do, we can be like a well-watered garden, and they shall languish no more. Now this one is because God has promised us to be like a well-watered garden, but this is just one of those this is a promise from Jesus. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. The hope that God is spreading is not just to exist, not just to escape our problems, but to have life and to have it abundantly. And that's one of those great promises that we need to put our trust in Jesus on. I don't want to suggest that God has promised us no problems, because he hasn't. When we look at the time of Jeremiah, these people had problems. They'd been carried away into captivity and were slaves. And they had lots of problems. But still, God promised them that they would be like that well-watered garden. And another, this is out of Romans 8:15. For you have not received the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. Again, when we look at these people that are being brought back, that we're in the same situation that God is offering to bring us back. That if we search for God while He can be found, we will find Him. And we have that promise of receiving the Spirit of Christ, the Spirit of God, as sons, as children, as daughters. Not as just people with no hope, but people that have the hope of being God's children. And I think as we look at that, that is our challenge, is we want to have hope, but we also want to spread that hope to others. And when we look at this, it talks about those that come crying, that they came crying. Who in our society today is crying? And who needs that hope? And as people of God, how do we show that hope to people? Because it's not just that we need to have hope, but we need to show it to others. And we need to give that hope, because our world needs it. I hesitate to say it needs it now more than ever, because I think we've always needed hope. But our world does need it. They need people who will share God's hope with others. And I encourage us to do that as we go forward. And this is I like this passage from Paul. Brothers, I do not consider that I've made it my own, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead. And as we look at the year that's gone, I don't know that we want to forget everything, I don't know. But we do want to put it behind us and strain forward to what lies ahead. Because if we keep our focus on God, just like these people who are returning from exile in Jeremiah's time, is that God will welcome us with open arms if we come forward to Him. And that's one of the things that we offer today, is a chance that we're in this together. And if someone needs help, if someone needs prayers, if someone needs to come to the Lord in any way, we would ask that you come forward as we stand and as we sing.